I sweat profusely, awaiting the dreaded moment. Each tick of the clock tenses my muscles that much more, every minute making more hairs stand on end. It's coming for me. I can feel it. Death. Death in the form of a single sheet of paper. I take the small pile of papers from the student in front of me and pass it backwards after plucking off the top piece. That was unnecessarily dramatic. Looking to the top right of the page, I find my fears realized within that small red circle. 43. I hang my head and sigh in resignation. Cursing under my breath, I can feel the aura of a similar sentiment rising from the entire class. It's strange, but that fact lifts my mood a minuscule amount. Misery loves company, I suppose. As the teacher opens her mouth, the room braces for the inevitable onslaught. Only to be saved at the last minute. Never before has the bell ringing ever heralded such monumentous cheers and applause. We quickly move to collect our bags and leave for the lunch post-haste, but the teacher delivers a parting broadside. We'll be discussing the test scores next lesson. Needless to say, there will be quite some discussion to be had. A collective groan resounds from the class, now reduced to shuffling out dejectedly. 'Twas a dark day. I push the sheet into my bag as I walk along the hallway, crumpling it in the process. It's enough that such a troublesome letter ended up on my desk yesterday, and now this? I hate English. He-sa-o. A stern female voice gruffly calls out from behind me. I freeze on the spot, my face becoming like stone, and as if I could feel my brain disconnecting from my body, as it apparently crawls out of my nose and runs down the hallway. My eyes slowly shift right, trying to catch a glimpse of the disembodied voice. Nothing. My face begins to slip as time passes, and I decide to risk turning my head ever so slowly. I twist it to the... Yeah! I jump into the air and drop my bag, yelling out in surprise. As I'm recovering to regain my composure, I turn to see... I should have known. Emmy. Gotcha, Hisao! She stands there with a mischievous grin on her face, hands forward and fingers pointed inwards. She was the one who jabbed my ribs with her fingers. I look down at her with a grimace, rubbing my hair in frustration. There's no way to greet someone, you know. You have no sense of humor. I left my sense of humor in my English class. Complain to the teacher if you want to give it back to me. She pulls her best puppy dog eyes on me and she pouts. Lily's managed to build up my resistance to this tactic, but Emmy's short stature adds enough to the effect to make me relent. So how are things? I haven't seen you around for a while. Same-o, same-o. I run so fast, nobody wants to join me on my morning runs. It's a real pain. Yeah, I know. I try not to think about that. Her modesty never fails to amuse me. Although... Uh-oh. You know what I'm thinking, don't you, Hisao? Wearing my emotions on my sleeve is one of my worst habits. She's seen right through me. Fortunately, I see somebody else approaching us that gives me an out. Oh, hi, Hanako! Suddenly, Hanako. I give her a welcoming wave and try my best at looking back like I haven't noticed Emmy's pouting face. She gives a small wave back. Hello, Hisao. Emmy. Hey, Hanako. I'll join you and Lily in a sec. Actually, speaking of lunchtime company, it's odd to see you without Rin, Emmy. Ah, Rin! Without a second word, she forgets all about us and bolts up off the hallway. She must have forgotten she was waiting for her. Hanako and I stand speechless, only able to helplessly stand and watch this ball of seemingly boundless energy dash off. Oh yeah, Hisao. She suddenly stops herself just before vanishing around the corner to the rooftop staircase, spinning around to meet our bemused faces. I hate English too. There we go, solidarity. We got that going for us. And with that, she disappears. All I can do is hang my head and give a long sigh, thoroughly left in the dust. As I hear a short giggle come from behind me, I turn to see Hanako smiling at the corner, my attacker rounded. I pick up my dropped bag from the floor and quickly dust it off. Afternoon! Been busy? You don't like English? Huh? Oh, nah. I had a test on it a while back and Emmy caught me brooding about the results. Oh, sorry. She averts her gaze and her guilt written onto her face. A casual observer would think she accidentally just reminded me of a dead relative. Come on, it's not your fault. How are you doing in it? She looks up, though, still avoids meeting my eyes. All right, I suppose. An awkward silence passes. They seem all too common around Hanako. Oh, Lily asked if you'd like to join us for lunch on the roof. I guess I don't exactly have any pressing engagements to attend to. Sure, I'll be right up. Yeah, I'll go get my lunch from the cafeteria now, then. Go on, you don't need my approval to leave, you know. Oh, okay, I'll be going then. She gives a skittish reply, a small nod, and quickly makes off towards the cafeteria. I guess she must have forgotten to bring lunch today. As I walk through the hallways, more and more students seem to come out of the classrooms and pass me, going in the same direction as Hanako went. By the time I manage to make it to the stairs, I'm having to push my way past a busily chatting throng of students. Or throng. Either way, I finally managed to get past the last of the crowd and round the staircase, slumping slightly in relief and slowing my pace before I opened the door to the roof. Ah, damn! I momentarily avert my eyes, all but blinded by the harsh summer sun. Huh? Well, this is a unique combo that I don't see very often. As I slowly regain my vision, the surroundings finally take form. Lily, Emmy, and Rin sit together on the rooftop, the top of the hilltop forest around Yamako visible past the fence around them, as if to frame the view. Ah, Hisao! Lily and Rin give a quick nod of acknowledgement and a deep nod of greeting respectfully. I start walking towards the rather mismatched trio, and I can't help marveling at the speed with which Emmy devours the rest of her half-eaten banana. Hey, strange to see you three together like this. It seems to have been quite the day of coincidences. Emmy and Rin decided to eat on the roof just as Hanako and I decided to. I mean, not especially. I mean, when Hanako said that, I was like, ain't Emmy and Rin gonna be up there? They seem to always be up there. You stole it. This spot was ours. Simmer down. You can't steal a place in the school. I plonk myself down beside Lily, the four of us creating a semicircle. I think she's right. You too? Or you too? The butterfly is her accomplice. The butter? As I glance around, sure enough, a small yellow butterfly floats across my field of vision. So tell me, how did this butterfly help Lily steal the spot? It scouted out our conversation and told her. And I should have known better than to expect sound reasoning from Rin. Hey, maybe the butterfly... Nobody ever suspects the butterfly. Regardless, I guess it wouldn't hurt to play along. You're telling me she can talk to butterflies? There are people who can talk to horses, called horse whisperers. Lily must be a butterfly whisperer. I bury my head in my hands as Emmy rounds on her strange companion. She doesn't seem to share Rin's sense of humor. Whisperers don't work like that. Emmy and Rin continue their banter as I turn to Lily, who's busily finishing off her small box of curry and rice. So, what brought you up here anyway? A little fresh air every now and again doesn't hurt. Ah. Emmy breaks off her view from her vain attempts to introduce the concept of logic to Rin. That's why we came up here too. Something tells me it was her idea alone and that Rin only got dragged up here on Emmy's whim. Then again, the same could probably be said of Lily and Hanako. Now, we can share. The creaking of the door to the roof can be heard as soon as she says the words. A moment of silence falls on us as everyone's attention focuses on the figure appearing from it. Suddenly, Hanako. Hanako slowly walks over to us, her eyes pinned to the ground silently, ruining the attention she's attracting. She tenses just barely when her eyes meet Rin's. A meeting of the minds. I can't help raising an eyebrow as she walks over to us and sits next to me, doing her utmost to avoid looking up even as she brings her cafeteria bread to her mouth. So, how do you and Emmy know each other anyways? Emmy's somewhat well known around the school for her athletic ability. She's the fastest member of the track and field team by some margin, even beating Miki! There she is! At the track meet last week. Mika Maria. Ah! That tan girl from the front of my class. Considering her height and toned body, being able to beat her is quite an accomplishment. You would notice that, wouldn't you, Hisao? Like I say I wouldn't, you know. Looking over to Emmy, it's very clear she's well aware of this fact as she beams proudly. So, Hisao, what was your score in English? Ow. No comment. Boo. She puffs her cheeks and pouts like Jigglypuff, but it doesn't take long for her to bounce back. Alright, if I tell you mine, you have to tell me yours, deal? Fine. Okay, so on the count of 3, we both say our results. Dude, don't fall for it. It's a classic bamboozlement. She's gonna wait for the time. She's not gonna even say the number. 1, 2, 3. 32? Hisao is the one who gone done and did it. I beam a mischievous grin. Ah, evil. You said it, not me. Still, the fact that you managed an even lower score than me is kind of amazing. She looks and sounds like a small terrier growling at an intruder. I can't say it's the most threatening sight I've seen. Either way, scoring higher than 32 isn't something to boast about, much less scoring below it for any subject. Yes, Lily. Sorry, Lily. I could help you with your English if you'd like. It'd be my pleasure to. No, that's fine. But I appreciate the thought, really. Lily looks slightly deflated, her hopes of imparting her knowledge dashed. Judging from the badly hidden laughter of the rest of us, neither she nor Emmy seem to have garnered too much pity. Oh, that's interesting. Ow. As I sit happily laughing, though, I feel my voice suddenly cut off my chest as my chest clenches. Whoa. Stuttering my words is going to be far from my biggest concern in a few moments. I sit in silence for a few seconds, all my concentration focused on my heartbeat. It's only a small pain, but the ache feels like it's growing. Breathe deeply. I glance upwards to try and keep at least some of my attention on my surroundings, to see Emmy suddenly freezing when she noticed the expression of pain on my face out of the corner of her eye. Hey, Hisao, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I look back and down and redouble my effort to try and stay calm, clenching my fist to try and dull the pain. It takes a short time, but the pain, thankfully, begins to fade. When I look back up, there's only silence and pensive faces to be seen. I guess I better explain myself. Arrhythmia, I'm fine. It's just the heart flutter. No big deal. Are you sure? Should we get the nurse? Taking her cue, Hanako quickly picks herself up and begins to dash to the door. Hanako, stop. Lily, I'm fine. You look like a wet, wrinkled tomato. Eh? As I bring my hand to my forehead, I can feel the beads of sweat gathered on it and dab them off with my cuff. Thanks, I told you. I'm fine. I'm just kind of fragile, I guess. The entire atmosphere's changed from one of gaiety to downcast faces, and it's all my fault! Ugh! The situation being too awkward for anyone to know exactly how to react. And of course, the whole thing is thanks to me, because of course it was. It just had to happen now around others. Oh, Emmy. She looks up, a box of juice halfway to her mouth. I haven't told you of my score yet, have I? Yeah, well, you're half foreign, so your score doesn't count anyway. Lifting an eyebrow, I inquisitively turned to Lily. What was your test result anyway? She gives a cheeky grin. 100%. Perfect score. Oh, Lily, no way. All I can do is hang my mouth open in wonder. Considering those tests are insane, even for some native speakers, I can only imagine she's gone and done something like committing to mind part of the dictionary, a gift for route memorization, maybe. That's... See? Only someone part foreign could get a score that good. See? Lily and I grin at Emmy's expense, her reaction identical to mine when I'd first tripped on that little landmine. Lily's foreign ancestry does raise a point, though. Oh, that's right. You leave tomorrow for Scotland, don't you? That's correct. Emmy heard some rumors about it. It seems word's spreading quickly, considering I only told a friend in my class a couple of days ago. Must be so nice to go halfway around the world on a holiday. Oh, Emmy. I wish I could pat your tiny little head. This will not be a fun time for Lily, methinks. Hey, could you buy me something while you're there? Don't be too shy now. Lily gives a lighthearted giggle, evidently fully expecting Emmy's bluntness. The rest of the lunch continues much the same as before, the jauntiness from before my heart flutter thankfully returning in full. Thank you, Lily. As everyone files off with the appropriate farewells, only Lily and I are left. Hey, Lily? She packs the last of her things into her bag and clips it shut before perking her head up slightly. Thanks for breaking the silence back there. I kind of wanted to stop it, but didn't really know how to. As much as I'd like to sound less morose about it, the letter from yesterday screwing up a test so badly in class, and now my heart makes things very hard indeed. She gives an indulgent smile and nods. I hope she hasn't picked up on it, but knowing her, it's unlikely that she hasn't. Emmy's strong, but only human. We do worry about you, Hisao. Hold on, why would I worry you? Her smiling face collapses before becoming uncomfortably serious. Hisao, we are not ignorant of your situation. Unlike... She suddenly cuts herself short, unsure of whether she should say what she intends to. I gave a weak smile and rest my hand on her shoulder. Don't. It's enough that I worry about it. I don't want you all to shoulder my burden. But if you all worry about it, I have to worry about your worrying, if that makes sense. I'm fine, okay? For a moment, she looks to be lost in thought, carefully pondering how to react. So, do you have any paper left from your food packaging? I think so. I'll go check. I rummage around my bag for the leftovers from lunch, eventually finding a paper square from my sandwiches package. My eyebrow raised and my expression rather quizzical, I gently place the square into Lily's hand. Without another word, she brings her fingers around to feel out its edges. It should be large enough. With both of us seated on the roof, the minutes to the lesson ticking away, she proceeds to lay the item on the ground and begin her work in earnest. Wrapped in silence, I watch her fingers move about on the small square with amazing dexterity. A small fold here, a large fold there. Her fingertips keep a slow but sure pace. Looking up, her expression is calm and placid. The fact her face is pointed well above the sheet in front of her makes the sight of her work all the more curious. Why you doing origami? Her shoulders slump a bit after finishing one final fold, her work apparently done. It's only when she holds the item up in her hands that I realize what it is. It's a crane! A small origami crane. Light brown thanks to the packaging used, the result looked quite delicate and precise. You can do origami? I taught myself how to do it when I was younger. It improved my dexterity a bit. Huh. A little baffled, I carefully take the small bird from her pale cupped hands as if it would break from the slightest breeze. Seems to be folded quite well and holds its shape easily. We both grab our bags and head out the door, Lily extending her cane as she does so. I hold Lily's handiwork up to my face for further inspection while we walk down the hallway, her hand running along the silver handrails for orientation. If she taught herself origami to improve her dexterity, with the use of her hands meaning so much to her given her condition. Oh, so that's it. I smile as I realize the bird's meaning. Everyone here has had to find their own ways to dealing with their conditions. You aren't alone here when you have problems. Thanks, Lily. I appreciate this. She gives a sweet smile and a nod, not using words where none need to be used, in her typical manner. All I ask is that you take care of yourself, Hisao. Don't worry, I will. Promise? Promise. And with that, we part ways. To be honest, I don't know what annoys me more, the fact that I could die at any moment or the fact that everyone knows that. I guess I'll just take each day as it comes. As the unexpected present in my hand reminds me, I'm not alone here. Even though I may be like this, I'm not alone. If they worry, if anyone worries, I'll smile. I'll smile enough for all their worries to go away. Not a terrible mindset to have, but you do actually need to, take care of yourself. The best way to make sure nobody has to frown about your condition is to make the situation as good as you possibly can. The moment the bell rings out, a collective sigh of relief comes from everyone. Much of the morning's been taken up by a droning lecture on stoichiometry, a topic entirely unbefitting of the insufferable heat permeating the classroom. Knowing that attempting to teach anything more would be an exercise in futility, Muto gives up and begins clearing the teaching materials from his desk for the day. As meaningless banter starts filling the classroom, I notice Hanako getting up and coming to my desk. She's become a lot less withdrawn lately, something which gives me a small measure of satisfaction. Hello, Hisao. Hey, want to go pick up Lily then? It's close to the time when she need to get going if she wants to make her flight. About that. She said she might be held up a bit by her classmates. I suppose that makes sense. Her class usually gets off a little earlier than ours, so Lily would normally just have to come to our classroom. Her classes must be sending her off. Well, never mind. We can wait outside her classroom for once, right? She gives a small giggle before nodding, the two of us taking our things and leaving for 3-2's classroom. When we reach our destination, I stop in idle amusement at the scene inside. One of the shorter girls from the class has Lily wrapped in an enthusiastic hug, her head no higher than Lily's chin. Her other friends, of which there are several, are gathered around her as well. Lily simply smiles kindly and hugs her back. I guess Lily must be pretty popular. Compared to Shizune's harsh but fair dictatorship of 3-3, Lily seems more like a motherly figure of 3-2, to say nothing of her height and looks. Genji's pointedly cool demeanor as he packs up his things at his seat in the back corner of the classroom is expected. He's no doubt far from a fan of the fuss being made about Lily's leaving. Looking beside me and seeing Hanako following my gaze, I decide to finally enter the room. Afternoon, Lily. It's just me and Hanako. As you should expect! That was an interesting effect. What was that all about? Hanako withers, or even, did anybody even see that? I don't know. Withers noticeably when exposed to the din being made around Lily. Try as she might, I doubt she'll ever completely get over her social anxiety. Hello. Lily manages to work out our position reasonably well. Her classmate detaching herself without a second word. A look of slight exasperation is written on Lily's face, though I can't say I blame her. Hello, Hisao, Hanako. Do we have much time before the flight leaves? I give a quick glance at my watch, taking the trip to the airport into account. There's a good 10, maybe 15 minutes left while still allowing for contingencies. Yeah, we still have a few minutes to kill. I wouldn't worry about missing it yet. Is this Hanako? Uh-oh. I think we've just inadvertently become entangled in Lily's social web. The girl's probably part of the legally blind faction of the class like Kenji, given her almost window pane-like spectacles. Her short, roughly cut hair gives her a look that fits her excitable expression. Hello, She takes Hanako's hand and pulls it up and down enthusiastically. I really don't get how girls can be so social with someone they only know as the friend of a friend. While Hanako exchanges nervous greetings, I look around the room for my short and overdressed next-door neighbor. Try as I might, he seems to have slipped out of the classroom without anyone noticing. I really have no problem with that. It's cool that he's gone. Nobody needs that in their life. For a moment, I think of possible career paths that could reasonably benefit from his single skill before putting my mind to more pertinent matters. Lily seems pleased, if somewhat guarded, about the enthusiasm Hanako suddenly excited from those around her. She might not see it, but Hanako's much less panicked about the affair than I'd anticipated. Shuffling my way through the gaggle of classmates, I eventually managed to reach her. Don't worry, Hanako's fine. Thank you. I thought she might be overwhelmed by them. Don't worry, we'll be gentle. Both of us grimace in unison. Hanako's nervous grin stays plastered on her face as another couple of girls move in to greet her. It's kind of amazing that even just a month ago, she'd never been able to cope with a situation such as this. Even when I first met her, the two of us completely alone, she sprinted from the library. So, got everything you need? It's all packed. I just have to go to my room and pick it up on the way, and Hanako and I need to change. I guess we better get going then, Hanako. Hanako's head flicks up towards us in a flash, her face rather unmistakably appreciating the chance to extricate herself from the small group gathered around her. Coming. She didn't shut down? That's good. The long taxi ride to the airport is surprisingly pleasant, despite the three of us being rather squashed together to fit the small back seat. On the other hand, maybe despite isn't the right word. Lily pays the fare to the driver as we file out, Hanako's eyes flittering left and right. Thankfully, there aren't too many people around, most of them being inside the main building rather than milling around outside. It isn't hard to spot Akira and Hideki leaning against a fence while talking to pass the time. A large black travel bag, complete with wheels with travel handle, leans against the fence alongside them. Hideki's the first to notice us, pointing us out to Akira, who gives an over-enthusiastic wave. Hey! Hey! I grab Lily's travel bag for her as we go to meet the two, earning a nod of appreciation. Got all my stuff here. You got yours? Plane ticket as well? No, I forgot that part. Don't worry, I have everything. You? Yep, all ready to go. Now without some problems along the way, I might add. The Snyder Mark has his head roughly dragged around by the very firmly clamped on hand. Haha, yeah, I kinda sorta forgot it was in my trouser pocket. Trousers that I'd put in the wash. Oh no. Don't worry. Did you know you can print out tickets if you order online nowadays? It's really cool. Technology! Crazy times. Hideki's pained expression says that this wasn't a solution found quickly. It could have been worse, I guess. We better start off then. Check-in should be ready by now. Yeah, you're right. There's a certain amount of wistfulness in both their voices, to say nothing of the people left behind. Meeting their family again after all these years would be big for them. Lily. Oh, I forgot about her cute hat. Hanako wraps Lily in a gentle hug to say goodbye, one which is warmly reciprocated. Lily and I share a brief hug afterward, each of us saying our goodbyes. Beside us, Akira and Hideki break off from a small hug and a word or two between them. It'd probably look quite nice if not for the almost comical height difference between the two. Lily takes a hold of her sister's arm once all that needs to be said and farewells are said, the two walking past the huge glass doors. Goodbye, Hisao, Hanako. Bye, Lily. See ya. Don't do anything stupid, shorty. Who's taking care of the kid, then? We wave at them until they disappear from sight in the throng of people moving. I don't know, I keep going with throng. Of people moving out inside. It's not a dang orc. And then, we're alone. Well, that's that. I turn to see Hideki already beginning to walk off. See ya. And off they go. He throws a hand in the air in a manner I'd expect of Akira. In the end, it's just Hanako and me left standing outside. I rest my hand on her shoulder. She absent-mindedly gazes towards the front doors of the building, as if she might catch a glimpse of either of the two before they disappear. Don't worry. The time will pass fast. She hesitates for a moment, but eventually nods. With the scorching heat of the summer sun beaming down on us, we make our way to the nearby bus stop. It's strange, really. Just when I begun to see Lily differently, she leaves on what almost feels like a pilgrimage to the past. In a way, though, that's just what I've been doing since coming to Yamaku. As much as I may reflect on everything that's happened to me, I really am hardly unique. Everyone has their own circumstances and separate paths to get where they are now. And I still can't really work out how I should proceed. My life may have practically been reset, and I still can't find anything that satisfactory fills the hole I can still feel in myself. Maybe Lily's leaving will be a good thing for me. Without her to lean on, I'll need to do more for myself. I'll have to be there for Hanako as well. It feels strange to have so much changing so quickly after my months in that hospital that seemed to exist so separately from reality, but that's all the more reason for me to keep focused. It is good to look on the positive sides of things. Like, yeah, alright, well, just go ahead and work on some self-improvement. Not rely on Lily so much. Try to get good. Can't let any opportunity slip out of my fingers in my attempt to rebuild my life. A brand new chapter. We started with the past, and now we're going with the present. Act 4 is probably future. It seems likely. Nod, nod. I rest my chin on my hand as I absent-mindedly look out the window. Yet another of Muto's lectures droning on and on as if it were endless. The summer sky is almost alluring in its bright cerulean splendor. Oddly, the odd passing cloud breaks up the deep blue expanse. The feeling of longing is probably the outside of me yearning to escape. Nakai, could you answer this? That side of me's lost to the past now, though. In that case, I think it would be the "an" suffix? Correct. Moving on, the suffix 4. As my attention towards Muto slips once again, I spot Misha giving me an enthusiastic thumbs up and nod at her to settle her down. Yes, thank you, Misha. Settle down now, girl. It's been a handful of days since Lily left for Scotland. Days which have passed relatively peacefully. Life largely continued as usual in contrast to what I'd expected. While thoughts of her had danced around on the edge of my mind since she left, present events managed to subdue them, at least for the time being. So I find myself idly chatting with Hanako as usual when lunchtime finally rolls by. Are the latter ones in the series good as well? Not really. You're probably best off just sticking to the original. His later books don't live up to it other than maybe God Emperor. Thanks, I wasn't really sure if... Suddenly, these two! As Hanako steps to the side, I see Shizune stride up in her typical business-like manner, flanked by her ever-present bright-haired shadow as she rolls out the red carpet and throws out assorted rose petals to announce the, decadent arrival of Shizune. Shizune the Wise! Try as I might, I can't read any hint of their intent from their faces. Shizune's poker face and Misha's seemingly boundless cheerfulness are a devilish combination. Morning, Shizune. Misha. Hi. I accentuate the greeting with a nod to Shizune in order to get the point across. She promptly and curtly returns the gesture to both of us. It's been a long while since I've really talked to either of them. For a while, I thought they might be avoiding me, but I eventually came to the conclusion that Shizune really isn't the type to do so. Morning! Shi-chan says that Muto wants to see you sometime. Because of this statement, my face contorts as if I'd just eaten spoiled food, giving Misha no end of amusement. Wahaha! Anyone would think you were in trouble, Hee-chan. You may not be aware of it, but you have the least to worry about of anyone in the class. What an unexpected vote of confidence. Even Hanako nods hesitantly to affirm the point. Thanks, I'll keep that in mind. There was something I wanted to ask you, though. And what might that be, Hee-chan? I have a feeling this won't go over well, but here we go! We gotta pull up that clutch. Is there any reason why you and Lily don't get along? Seems like even a little civility would help you both in your duties. Shizune's cold stare after Misha happily signs the word stops me in my tracks. In hindsight, I could have worded that significantly better. Hanako decides that she'd rather be in Istanbul right now, and you know what? That's fair. It's not Constantinople, you know. Out of the corner of my eye, I'm sure I see Hanako move back just a little. Thankfully, Shizune notices this and lets her temper dissipate as she forcefully runs her hand through her hair to let off steam. Perfectly on cue, Misha begins interpreting the second Shizune's arms begin to move. I would say that such matters aren't relevant to you, but since you seem to have befriended Lily... She pauses to adjust her glasses, evidently attempting to articulate her point in the best possible manner. While I assume the same of her, I cannot call my own views on the matter unbiased. Suffice to say, we were closer before than we are now. Shizune makes a quick gesture to Misha to stop her from interpreting, then has a quick meeting with her before proceeding. The fact that the two can communicate so easily yet so secretly right in front of us is slightly disconcerting. Hanako seems to share my curiosity at the proceedings, looking on with thinly masked interest. As they finish the opaque conversation, Misha looks slightly deflated. I guess her opinion on the matter wasn't followed. Shi-chan says you should ask Lily about it, as she doesn't want to be the one that gets you involved. That's a reasonable thing to say, honestly. Well, I'll just have to ask her after she gets back. At least I got some information out of Shizune. The two having been on close terms means that they weren't always at each other's throats, or at least not quite to this extent. I understand. Thanks anyway. With a nod and a farewell, the two break away and walk out the door, no doubt headed straight for the student council room. Could have gone worse, I suppose. Hanako lets out a long breath, relieved at the confrontation's resolution. I can't say I blame her. I'll see you later then? Yeah, I'll meet you in the tea room. See ya. With that, she waves and joins the trickle of students leaving the classroom. Nakai, could I speak with you for a moment? Egad almighty, I don't know if that's a good thing. Delivered in his typical monotone manner, he apparently decided that I need a reminder to see him already. Eventually, I finished packing up my things. By the time I reached his desk, the classroom was close to empty. Yes, sir? He looks up, taking measure of my face before giving an awkward, rather obviously acted chuckle. No need to feel guilty. You're not in any trouble. I just want to ask you something I've asked a few of the other students so far. Something at least. For a moment, I thought the maxim of keeping my head down and pen up had failed me. So, what do you want to talk about? To start with, what do you think of your progress in the class so far? Good? Bad? I had to test that kind of question. For a fair amount of time, I try to think of a response that is neither pathetically humble, nor cocky. I'd say I'm doing okay. The work doesn't seem too hard, and I'm doing better on the test than I thought I would. That's a good answer. A correct one, too. I give a mental sigh of relief at his satisfaction. To say I don't gain a little pride from his comment would be a blatant lie. In the maelstrom of thoughts clouding my mind after learning that I'd be transferring to Yamaku, my school grades seemed utterly unimportant. Being entirely clueless as to what skill level would be assumed of me once I actually got here, I was hugely relieved when I found out that I understood well enough the schoolwork we'd be doing. I know your circumstances might have thrown a wrench in your works, but have you given any thought to your future? My future? What you'd like to do as a profession? Do you have any thoughts of where you'd like to be in 10 or 20 years' time? I wouldn't be surprised if you covered this ground in your previous school, but I don't have any record of it if you have. I suppose the last year of high school is the time when students would need to be thinking about such things. To be honest, I really haven't lent it much thought compared to my immediate situation. Catching on to my thinking, Muto speaks up. It's okay if you haven't decided on anything specific yet. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of your classmates were still undecided after all. Maybe pursue one of your talents? He's rather obviously trying to squeeze an answer out of me, and something about his previous wording makes me suspicious. He didn't seem to be intent on asking everybody like this, so he must have some kind of selection criteria. At a guess, our grades in his class. Well, something in science might be the path of least resistance. His face brightens, no doubt pleased at the thought of a prize student following his subject as a career path. Good, having a general idea is the first step. I'd advise you to think on it, though. I will. Things are kind of settling down, which will help. Good to hear. Oh, I've noticed that Ikazawa's attendance and grades have improved since you came to be friends. I'd like to thank you for that. Ah, I'm surprised you noticed we know each other. He gives a chuckle and as awkward as a smile. This guy really has no idea how to properly act around others. Every facial movement seems like an act of carefully but misdirected choreography. You could say that having a general idea of who knows whom is part of a teacher's job. Catching himself before he goes off on a tangent, he loudly coughs into his hand. I'm sure you have things to do, though, so I'll stop there. Please do think about where you're headed from here, so you don't have long to go before you finish high school. Oh, as you don't. I will. Thanks. The brief talk ended. I take my leave. He goes back to fussing with the teaching materials on his desk. This is one of the times I'm envious of Lily, almost maddeningly so. To have one's future so clear and so assured, yet working towards it from such a young age. It's an idea so utterly impossible to fathom with my own thoughts, mirrored in the present day just as they've always been. Sometimes I have no choice but to just replace a word with another word. I know what the word meant, it's just exact phrasing escaped me. Sometimes that happens. Get off my back, I'm doing my best. Walking through the lobby to the cafeteria, I silently rue my daily routine having been completely thrown off. It seemed like a normal day. I arrived in class before most due to waking early and having become quite adept at chucking down my pills without choking as I get ready for the day. Yeah, that's something you gotta learn to do. But as students trickled in, one never materialized. Hanako. Uh-oh. I think I might know why, too. I step inside, my eyes scanning the expanse of the cafeteria in search of a suitable place to take a seat, and a task made more difficult by the groups of students moving around and busily talking. Gah! A hand pounds my back hard a couple times, severely winding me. I couldn't care less about the culprit as I focused thoughts on my chest in a near-automatic reaction. My hand instinctively tightens on my breast, and I start going through the steps I rehearse in my mind every other day. Breathe steadily, in and out. With a measure of relief, I can slowly feel my chest becoming less tense. By the time I look back up, my face is covered in sweat from the experience. Ah, of course it would be you that almost kills me. Hey, man, are you okay? God damn it, don't do that, you idiot! He retreats back, an expression of unease written on his face. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have barked at him, considering he has no way to know. I give a sigh and right myself with some difficulty. To be 100% fair to Kenji, and that's not something I would like to normally do, he doesn't know. Sorry, I just have some chest problems. Sharp knocks aren't good. Seems strange to see him so upset. The fact that I can't do anything about it irritates me. Let's get lunch. Okay, it's good to have some company for once. We start off the serving line. One good thing is that Kenji and I can make small talk nowadays, as opposed to my only interaction with him being anti-feminist lectures. Seems like it'd be hard to find an empty table. There's a few people I wouldn't mind sitting with. Nobody's like you, though. I feel a shiver run through my spine. Clarify that now. And they don't listen. Their minds are closed. It's the media. Never mind, here we go. Goddamn brainwashing. Mainstream, feminist, fascist media. He takes a breath and I savor the second of silence. Yeah, they control everything. Everything but you and me. I relax a little while we grab our food and drink. So, what do you got for me there? Come on, you've been hanging around Sato and the other chicks for ages now. Rumors are all over my class and probably some of the other students too. Eavesdropping isn't a good habit. Let me guess, you never do it? Not even when you're bored? Really? Well, okay, fine, point taken. Both of us stopped to have soup ladled into a couple of small bowls and placed onto our trays. The concoction that lands in the bowl looks pretty questionable, but at least it smells reasonably good. As we take our seats at a miraculously free table, I try to think of something that would actually interest him at all. I hope I can come up with an acceptable topic. I found an answer to that question you asked a couple weeks back, where Lily's non-Japanese half comes from, that is. Good man. It's Russia, right? Totally Russia. Scotland. He's visibly stopped in his tracks. Scotland? Yeah, that was my reaction too. She can speak English fluently and everything. Damn it! Do you realize what this means? How terrifying this news is to me? He thinks he's hyperventilating. Passing out for a little while would probably make him more relaxed than he normally is. I'm gonna go ahead with the whole ignore his insane ramblings. Then again, in retrospect, I just this very moment realized that this is the first time I've ever, since playing this game, ever had a choice related to Kenji in any shape, way, or form. Either way, I still don't feel like humoring him is a good idea in any capacity. It's just unhealthy, man. I dig out of my food, hoping he'll take the hint from my silence. I just lost 1,000 yen, man. 1,000 yen. Damn, this is the worst day ever. No such luck. You're kidding me. You made a bet about her nationality? One of the best dudes in my class was bugging me about it. I gave him some of my wisdom, and he had the audacity to say my logic was wrong. What did he think? Germany or something. It doesn't matter. What matters is my 1,000 yen. Damn, this day is ruined thanks to her. What a female dog. He looks utterly devastated as he wolfs down several clumps of his soggy soy-soaked rice. It only takes a few mouthfuls before he pokes his chopsticks at me, stabbing the air repeatedly in revelation. Why? Didn't your mother ever tell you not to speak with your mouth full? He gives me a dirty look before choking down the rest of the food left in his mouth and taking a gulp of juice. It's rather unsightly, and I regret having bore witness to it. Remembering my own food sitting in front of me, I decide to get the task of eating the cafeteria food over and done with as fast as possible. The sooner I do so, the sooner the experience will be over. So as I was saying, why would anyone want to live in that place anyway? I mean, what is there to see? Grassy plains? That's it. Lots and lots of grassy plains. And men in kilts. I'm not sure which is worse, the food or his worldview. I can feel my face being dragged down by their combined weight. Not that he'd notice or care. It's not that bad. Why do you care about her so much anyway? She's just your class representative after all. He gives a malevolent chuckle. With this anyone but Kenji, I'd feel uneasy to know how he sounds. I finally found the chink in the Feminist Legion's armor. It took a while, but I'm confident this is going to be how we can bring down the whole system. I'm about to blow your mind. Are you ready? I tune out his ramblings for a moment as I finish my rice and start on the unappetizing soup. One taste is enough to confirm that it's cold. Ready as I'll ever be. I confirm that Lily is in the Mafia. What? Alright, stay with me here for a second. I'll describe the scene. I wish I could do otherwise. Lily's there, walking down the street after school. You're not stalking her, are you? No, damn, man, I do have some sense of self-preservation. That is not why you shouldn't be stalking people, but okay, fine, as long as you aren't. But not dignity or morals or social standards, apparently. Anyway, as I was saying, this car pulls up next to her, and guess who steps out? A man in a pinstripe suit. Waves her in, and the two leave just like that. I tell you, man, she's under protection. Under protection. A man in a... Oh, I see where this is going now. It takes effort not to sigh in its desperation. Let me guess. This man was about average height, had a slightly slender build, had blonde hair, looked forward, and smiled a lot. He looks positively stunned. I take advantage of the moment of quiet to quickly gulp down a mouthful of cold soup. It seems you're more observant than I thought. Yes, I have chosen well. He giggles a little and nods to himself so dramatically that it looks comical. I can't tell whether that's intentional or not, and the fact makes me frown. This is important ramifications, you know. If she really is connected to people like them, and we're smart about what we do with this information, we could turn this into our greatest weapon against the student council. Once he starts rambling into conspiracy territory, my juice suddenly becomes much more of importance. Only half listening to his pontifications, my mind drifts to the matter of Lily and her antipathy for God damn, man. All right, that was a botch and a half. The past between them is steadily becoming more coherent, but I'm not even sure if I should be learning of her past this way. Indeed, even if I do work out what went on, it really doesn't seem like my business to go and interfere. Damn, not having Lily around is making my thoughts wander. I'm noticeably more bored and sullen without her company, and the same goes for Hanako. All we do during lunch anymore is eat and play chess. Come to think of it, I need to go check on Hanako after school too, considering her much improved attendance. I'm guessing she's come down with something. I like that we just, like, alright, let's just fully cut off Kenji now. I feel like everybody's had their fill. Oh, Nakai! I stop as I'm about to leave the classroom, turning on the ball of my heel to meet Muto. I give him some finger guns. He seems mildly confused by this action. I suspect it's the first time he's ever bore witness to it in his lifetime. It was an awkward situation, but one I ultimately chose to not regret. He's holding out to me a couple of my the worksheets we'd worked on during the day with his long, lanky arm. Would you mind giving these to Ikazawa? I'd normally ask one of the girls to do it, but I assume you'll be checking on her. For a moment, I briefly considered the possibility of that being more than an innocent prediction. I quickly discard the idea, though, as it's hard to think of him acting in such a Machiavellian way. It's not in his nature. Sure, no problem. Walking up to the hallway of the girls' dormitory, several ideas of why Hanako's been absent float around my head. The most obvious of them is just a simple cold. That said, she may not even be sick at all. It's been almost a week since Lily left, and despite her at least appearing to be normal, I'd suspect she'd be somewhat insecure about it, more insecure about it than she'd be letting on. Also, I know some things from Hanako's route that could also be a factor. Eventually, I come to Hanako's dormitory. Its simple brown door separating us, or room positioned next to Lily's is extremely convenient, and probably a large contributor to their meeting in the first place. Grimacing slightly at the prospect of her being sick, I wrap my knuckles on the door. Silence. I listen intently for any sound of shuffling coming from inside, but I can't hear a thing. I knock on the door again slightly harder. Still no answer. How strange. The door opens behind me. A freckled and somewhat scrawny underclassman I don't recognize comes out and is briefly taken off guard by my presence. Hi. Oh dear. I'm going to, I guess, ask about Hanako. This is a weird thing to be given a question of. I'm not sure. You've got me questioning myself. Huh. Alright, well, I guess I'll ask about Hanako, and we'll see how that goes. Actually, this may be a rather fortuitous meeting. Hey, excuse me, do you know if Hanako's come out of her room today or not? She doesn't seem to be answering. Ikazawa is Ikazawa. Her not answering the door is totally normal. That tall foreign girl's the only person she'll ever talk to, after all. She gives a sharp shrug, sure, before walking off down the hallway, having much more important matters to attend to than Hanako or me. Her dismissive attitude annoys me. Hanako must have a reputation as a hermit. A reputation that doesn't seem outright undeserved, at least in the time before we met. Scratching my head, I make one last attempt at getting Hanako to answer as I knock on the door one final time. Hanako, it's just me. Muto said to give you some stuff? For a while, the attempt seems just as unsuccessful as the last. Just before I slip the sheets under her door, though, I can hear the handle rattling. Hanako arrives. As the door opens halfway, I do my best to look Hanako over as quickly as possible. It's a task made somewhat more difficult by her oversized gown hiding so much of her body. She doesn't look sick, or at least not immediately so. To be honest, I'd have preferred that to her expression right now. Hi, Hanako. Muto wanted me to give you these since you weren't in class today. I hold on to loose sheets, which she tentatively takes in her hands. The way she moves is weird, devoid of thought, as if she's some kind of mechanical automation rather than a living being. Are you okay? If you're feeling sick or anything, I could get the nurse. It feels almost pitiful to put on such a routine, get-well-soon act. I can't think of anything else I could possibly do for her, though. She seems to collect herself a little at the notion, but only a little. I'm fine. Okay. An awkward silence follows, eventually ended by her nodding solemnly in farewell and closing the door. The entire experience feels surreal. More than a little put off, I wander back to my room and hope that she'll be better by tomorrow, despite not knowing exactly what's wrong with her. We all know, I mean, anybody who's watched the entire series knows. I guess it's possible you might have waited for the Lily story and just stuck out there, I suppose. Once again, I find myself in front of Hanako's door after another of her unexplained absences from class. Nothing. Considering this is the second day in a row she's been like this, I'm starting to worry about her. Summoning my willpower, I decided to try one last way to get her to respond. Hanako, if you don't say anything, I'll go get the nurse for you. Go away. What? It's hard to tell whether her tone's one of depression, anger, or both. What in the world can I actually do to help her if she doesn't even want help? The message is clear enough. I can't just leave her like this, though. Just sitting in her room for days on end. Rubbing my temples in thought, I withdraw to my own room to think about how to proceed. Rationality is what's needed here, as an overreaction may just make matters worse. At least we have the place of mind to be able to say that. I dig around drawer after drawer of my desk looking for where I put that damned piece of paper. Before she left, Lily told me the number to call her on while in Scotland, and I wrote it down. Now that I need it, though, the damned thing is... Yeah, here. I probably should have just entered it directly into my cell phone, come to think of it, but I'm not exactly a smart person. Without further ado, I enter the numbers and anxiously press the call button. Actually went out of his way to not call Lily. Don't want to bug her. She's obviously not having a great time, I can only assume over there. The fact the phone rings at all shows that I got the prefix for a call to Scotland right, at least. I'd never made an international call before, so that's some comfort. Eventually the phone picks up. A feminine voice I don't recognize on the other end. It's probably Lily's mother. Satao. English. Suddenly finding myself unprepared, I realize I can't understand a word she says, either due to my limited vocabulary or her heavy accent. And I should have anticipated this, since according to Lily, her mother is a native Scot. I soldier on in the hope that she must know some Japanese, considering it's her daughter's native language. It's Hisao Nakai speaking. An enthusiastic sound of realization can be heard as she recognizes the language. My feeling of relief is immense. Ah, you must be one of Lily's friends from school, correct? Even so, her accent means I have to concentrate to work out what she's saying. Yeah, that's right. Pleased to speak to you, Mrs. Satao. So nice of her to find someone so polite. Lily dear, it's for you. Her mother seems nice, if a little over-enthusiastic given the mundane situation. There's a small silence as Lily takes her time getting to the phone. In the distance, I can just make out her mother scolding her playfully for not getting up. Hello, Lily speaking. You sound awful. She makes a sound somewhere between a dying animal and a yawn. The one thing I did remember to check before calling was the time zone. It'd be pretty late in the morning over there, so she really has no excuse. Not feeling well? Just tired. What time is it there? Late afternoon. School finished for the day not long ago. You're really not a morning person, are you? I don't need you making fun of it as well. It takes a measure of restraint not to laugh at her pained groan, poor girl. How you doing over there, bar the mornings? It's been enjoyable. After not meeting them for so long, just having a meal together with my parents is nice. Though the pool and the sheer size of the house might have something to do with that as well. Even if they're not in Japan, from the way it sounds, your family must be pretty wealthy to live so luxuriously. I mean, I have a rather largish house with a pool. I don't think those are too hard to come by these days. Are things all right with you and Hanako? Damn, I was hoping that wouldn't have been be brought up quite so quickly. I take a moment to try and sort out exactly how to describe the situation without causing her undue worry, but she picks up on that without a word being said. Hanako's not well, is she? How did you know? Because today is her birthday. I had hoped she might have gotten at least a little better after coming to know you, but how is she right now? She missed school yesterday and seemed out of sorts when I checked up on her. Today she missed school again and just told me to go away. I've really got no idea what to make of it. Has this happened in the past? Is it related to her scarring in some way? Unfortunately so. Roughly the same thing happened last year when her birthday came up. As far as I can tell, it's because her parents died in the accident that caused her scarring, and Hanako blames herself for their deaths. What she says does seem to make sense. If she's blaming herself on her birthday, she may well be ruining that she was even born. Poor Hanako. I know she doesn't like pity, but still. The fact that Lily seems so in the dark about it, though, almost to the extent that I am, is a surprise. So that's why she lives in the school dormitories as well. Has she told you any more about the accident? As close as we've come, she's very barely told me anything about what happened. What I know about it is largely conjecture. She sounds depressed, almost defeated. Considering the trauma Hanako must have gone through, I really can't fault Lily for not knowing. Nevertheless, she still seems to consider it a personal failing. Don't blame yourself, Lily. With everything she's gone through? I know. Thank you, Hisao. I'm sorry I can't be of any more help to you. It's fine. I'll just give it some more thought. Thanks, and have a good time in Scotland. Yeah, it's nothing. Thank you for taking care of Hanako. Okay. Bye. Goodbye. And with that, the line goes silent. I'm kind of curious about what it is she wanted to say. Amid the seemingly only increased number of questions I can't answer, the most immediate is what Lily was going to say. Oh. Oh no. I'm an idiot. She must have thought I was calling to talk with her, but I only asked for help with Hanako. Even more shameful that the thought is the fact that such an appraisal would be largely correct. Well, first things first. For now, I need to at least sort out Hanako and make sure that she's actually eating okay. Well, at least he realized it. The occasional passing student to give badly hidden glances at the plate of food I carry to the female dormitories. It's hardly a meal to be proud of, only being an instant microwaved meal from the convenience store, but it should at least fill her up. Eventually, I arrive outside of her room after having to ward off a couple of girls who jokingly tried to pilfer the food I'd taken so long to procure. Rude. I hate those people more than anything. I decided to forego knocking, since it was proven to be an utterly useless measure, and it's somewhat difficult to do with my hands full. Hanako, it's Hisao. I know you're listening. I got some food for you. Silence, as I expected. I'll leave it beside your door. Please eat it at least, okay? There. I said my piece. Now it's up to her. Putting the plate down, I walked back to my own room to eat my dinner. We could only hope. By the time I returned to Hanako's dormitory, a good hour's passed. Thankfully, there isn't anything to be seen beside her door. I walk back at least somewhat happier that she's eating. If she intends to get through this by herself, then being able to help, even if it's just in such a small way, is at least something. That's actually quite nice. Okay. Don't really know how to actually help her in a grand sort of way, but we can at least, make sure she gets food. It means she didn't have to leave to try and get any, at least. I sit reading in the library after school, turning page after page, barely registering the words written on each out of sheer boredom. With my cheek resting in my hand, I can't help noticing the slightly rough feeling against my palm. Won't be long before I'll need to get a razor. You had to wait until you were 18 before you started growing facial hair? Good lord, I could shave when I was 13. Giving up on reading, I simply let my head drop onto the book in front of me. Things have quieted down considerably since Hanako began attending school again. When she first returned to class, nothing was said nor done that wasn't part of the usual routine, and it's been the same way since. Neither of us desired to bring up her accident, so there simply wasn't any point in pursuing it. Thus a few days went by, the daily grind continuing just as it had before. It's only natural that my mind would wander to other places, and more importantly, other people. The lily-shaped hole in the daily life of Hanako and me has been pretty noticeable for a while now. I'd be pleased to say that this has allowed me time to refine just what my thoughts on her exactly are, but alas, I've had no such luck. It doesn't help that many attempts to do so have led to the troublesome topic of Hanako. Every time my thoughts drift into that direction, I reflexively try to think about anything else. Why did this have to happen now? I turn and look up to the source of the tentative voice coming from behind me. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to disturb anyone. That's not it. Oh. I glance around the orange-tinted room, quickly realizing how silly my apology must have sounded. And the time I've spent thinking and lazing about in here, everyone's well and truly left. Library closing? If you don't want to go, I could keep it open a bit longer. It's no trouble at all. Don't worry. I should get going anyway. Thanks. As I get up and begin to move, I feel Yuko's eyes drilling into my back. Is there something wrong? You look depressed. Are you okay? You gotta really hand it to the MVP Yuko up in this situation. Sure, in some stories, she's not as helpful as she is in others, but in every single one, she tries to be a helpful and kind person, and you gotta appreciate that. Yuko nervously twists her fingers as she says this, unsure whether she's overstepping her boundaries or not. I really can't tell if she's more worried about my mood or about bothering me. Normally, I'd just shrug it off and assure her that I'm fine, but my reflective mood gets the better of me. Despite being staff, she doesn't really feel as much like an authority figure as the others. It's just... I guess the best term for it would be relationship problems. Oh, I'm not too good with that kind of thing. My only relationship ended a bit abruptly. But if you want to talk about it, I could listen, I think. Now I feel kind of bad for ringing it up. She's not that old, though, so at least she has a good chance of finding another partner. It isn't like we're in a bad situation right now. We'd spent many days together as friends. Sometimes going out to do stuff, that kind of thing. But I'm starting to want to do more for her, learn more about her, and be with her more. I'm not sure whether it's actually love or not, though, and our friendship as it stands is enjoyable. You shouldn't let that stop you. Sorry. How to say this, I think that it's nice that you have a good friendship, but school is going to eventually end. Do you think you'll be fine with not knowing if it could have gone further after you've graduated? I guess that's the crux of the problem. I really have no idea what the answer to the question is. Well, I can't really help you there. With what your true feelings are is something you'd have to decide for yourself, but I think that if you do love her, you definitely should say something. After thinking about it really hard, I decided that even though my relationship didn't work out, it's still better that way than never knowing if it might have or not. Never expected Yuko to sound so wise. It only makes sense that with more life experience than I, she'd have a better idea about this. Well, I suppose not very much was actually answered. Talking to her has helped to get it off my chest. And I have no doubt that I should confess if I really do like Lily. I give a slightly frustrated sigh. If only reading so much actually helped when it came to situations like this. She gives a girlish giggle, which only reinforces my view of her as being different from the usual staff here. Yuko's a very good person. In the end, it all comes down to what'll happen after school finishes once again. Considering what happened before I came to Yamako, it feels like being asked to keep up with the field of runners despite having to start it from a dozen yards behind them. It's just one more motive to move on from the past. The last thing I need right now is to get too caught up in that and getting homesick while I'm at it. Once again, I find myself calling Lily. My phone bill is going to be horrific considering this is international. But it's worth it. I don't only want to smooth over her feelings. I don't only want to smooth over her feelings from the last time I called. I genuinely want to talk to her again. When the phone finally picks up, I easily recognize the voice on the other end. Satao. Hello, Mrs. Satao. May I, speak? Damn, I've forgotten how the rest is supposed to go. It's not encouraging to forget such a small amount of words, even if I didn't spend that long trying to memorize them. May I speak with Lily, please? Hello again, Asao. Are you teaching yourself English? It's just a little. I don't think I'm too good at languages in general. Don't say that. Your pronunciation was good. When it comes from Japanese to English, I think that the letter R is the hardest, I think? Or is it L's? It's one of those letters. Either way, it's a letter that Japan just simply doesn't use. So they never make words with that noise, so it's hard to learn how to use it. I obediently wait as she goes off and search for Lily. The other end goes silent. Eventually, a much more awake-sounding Lily than last time answers. The time over there being past noon by now. Asao, are you there? Yeah, I'm here. Hi. Good afternoon. Sorry for taking so long. I was outside in the garden. Gardening? Unfortunately, I've found I'm no good at it, so I just smell the flowers. I think my fingers appreciate it more. I take it Hanako's recovered a bit? Yeah, I just made sure she was eating and eventually she righted herself. Thanks for the help the other day. I don't think I was really that much help. The main thing is that she's better, though. True. How's life over there, then? Sounds like you've been living in nothing short of a mansion. I wouldn't call it a mansion, but it is rather large, is obviously what she wants to say, though modesty stops her. I'm a little envious, but it is her holiday. It's a nice house to stay in, though. There's a beach near here, too, which Akira is especially fond of. She's a swimmer? She's constantly dragging me there to have swimming competitions, which she wins every time. Lily doesn't strike me as very athletic at all, so not being adept at swimming seems logical enough. The fastest I've ever seen her move is her understandably relaxed pace during her walks to and from suburbs down the hill from the school. It makes the image of her swimming hard to imagine. The beaches there must look nice. Maybe less crowded than the ones around here, at least. Indeed. Akira says the area around here looks beautiful because it's so far outside the city. I only realize what I've said after I say it, but it doesn't bother her at all. It's still easy to forget that she can't see when she's not around, despite the time we've been friends. That said, the local accents sometimes make communication a bit hard. It's a constant reminder that this isn't home. While the fact that she doesn't consider her parents' residence to be her home makes good sense, it makes you realize that I can't really answer whether the same goes for me. Graduation from Yamako is distant enough to be difficult to view objectively, and I've spent so much time in this small room I've come to accept the dormitory as my new home surprisingly quickly. I guess that would be hard to deal with. Is your knowledge of English holding up? Thankfully, I may be fluent, but being in a position where I have to use it often helps in curbing my Japanese accent, so it's been useful practice. I hear you're trying to teach yourself English? More like memorizing a few lines and failing at even that much. I'm not really cut out for learning another language. My admission of defeat draws an amused giggle. I believe that there are things one chooses to do in life, and also things that are chosen for one to do in life. You can take comfort in the fact you're better than me in science and math, at least. All that's helped is making me Mudo's star student. I wouldn't worry about it. They're useful skills for many jobs, right? They are. That's what he tells me. His face veritably lit up when I said I'd probably go into a career involving either. We both share a warm laugh at the events that have befallen each other on opposite ends of the world. It's nice. It reminds me of our simple small talk that I've been missing since she left. As each of us waits for the other to begin speaking, I decide to push ahead with my feelings. I can feel my throat tightening slightly. I miss you. The silence on the other end of the phone tells me she's given the words their due weight, but as it goes on, I can't help feeling more and more apprehensive. Thankfully, the silence ends almost as quickly as it had begun. I miss you too, Hisao. Goodbye. Goodbye, Lily. Once again, the phone is hung up. Simple and without any further ado. That light, tentative, almost shy voice, her warm and soft tone. I'd simply be lying to myself if I were to say that I don't recognize this feeling for what it is. With thoughts of Lily dancing on my mind, I start anticipating her return. Today has been a most excellent day. Aw, that's actually really nice. Progress in the relationship. Woo! Love to see it.